Hello, everybody. Welcome to Academy Talk Radio. This is the Ask a Medium radio show. I am your host, Reverend Ivy Rivera, psychic medium, coming to you from the Ivy League Psychic Academy in Buffalo, New York. I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Theresa Matuszak. How are you, Theresa?
I'm good on this wonderfully snowy evening. How are you doing?
Well, you know, it's undeniable at this point. So I'm in denial. I am not looking outside. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I'll see you in a snowdress on the side of the road at some point. Yay. It's officially here. So, but things are good. We made Christmas cookies today, and we got our tree yesterday, and it's
beautiful.
Awesome. I know, it's fun. So we have some things going on here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy. This is a school where people are training, Skyping in from all over the world, but people in the general area are also coming in here to take classes in person at the Academy. And we have a website, Ivy League Psychic Academy, where you can check out all the classes being offered. We have a level 1 psychic mediumship development starting in January, I think, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that is a 15-week course where you can learn to be a psychic medium and give a 15-minute professional reading to the public. So it's pretty incredible. My method is called the Psychology of Spirit Communication Method. It does not require that you believe in the spiritualist religion or that you use any meditation to accomplish this. It is not a gift. Everybody can do this. So come and check it out. We have a million other classes. I also have a show coming up called Hello for the Holidays. It's a gallery show next Saturday, December 17th at 7 p.m. here at the Academy. I think we're having a little technological issue here. I keep hearing a dinging. I don't know if I'm supposed to ignore that or not. All right. Well, hopefully you guys can hear us. If listeners are having any trouble, please message into the show. So our topic tonight is random phenomenon. We want to talk about all the strange occurrences that happen to people that leave them questioning the rest of their lives. Why did this happen to me? What the heck was that? And usually when these things happen, people don't even want to tell anybody else. That sound crazy.
Yeah, I know I did. I've had a couple experiences over the years, especially in the last 15 years, where I'll never forget, but I never wanted to talk about. More than willing to share tonight, but
this is the
stays with you, and you kind of get creeped out depending on what is happening.
And really, people don't have very similar experiences. It's hard to find people who've had the same thing. Most common things are like name calling, randomly, phantomly hearing your name called, knowing what you heard, and no one is there, bruising, cutting on the body when you wake up. And you're covered in, cuts, bangs, bruises, don't know how the heck it happened, all kinds of things. The animals acting weird, staring at things in the house, seeing cascading lights out of the corner of your eye or picking up on them in photographs, orbs, hot spots in areas like hospitals or old folks' homes where there's heightened activity or you see a lot of things. What else do we have going on?
Moving, missing objects, different things misplaced. It was there, it's not there. Or literally seeing things move in front of your eyes, too. That happens as well.
Yep. Okay, so we had a lot of questions coming in. Another common theme was hair pulling. Who the heck pulled my hair? Things like this. So we're gonna break down a lot of the questions that came in, but where can callers, what's the number for callers, and where can they send their questions on this topic?
If they would like to call in and speak with us directly, which is always nice to hear voices beyond.
Call us. Call me.
The number is 646-668-2353. That's 646-668-2353. It is also listed right there above the, I think it's the chat, or when you go on to blogtalkradio.com/Academy Talk Radio.
Okay, and as we get into this, I just want to say, too, right now I'm running my annual holiday sale. If you guys are looking for a psychic mediumship reading by phone, email, or in person, I am doing a buy one, get one 50% off. You can find me at Ivy Rivera, psychicmedium.com, or on Facebook at Ivy Rivera. And where can they find you?
They can get me on Facebook. It's Theresa Matuszak, Psychic Medium.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get into this. One of the most common questions that we had sent in was, why do I wake up battered and bruised or with cuts on my body? And then there were quite a few people who sent in photographs of other people they know who are waking up with the same problem. And it's incredibly disturbing, going to bed nice and cozy, waking up covered in blood or bruises. And it's also very common. So we had I'm looking for this one question. We had a Mallory J who said, why do I wake up with scratches and reoccurring marks in the same exact area for no reason at all? All right. I know Tree and I have a lot of different perspectives on what this could be, and we want to really cover everything. I will say this. I used to believe that when this happened to somebody, they were doing it with their mind. I used to believe that perhaps there was some kind of funny time traveling going on to another dimension, and they would wake up and have these situations. Then I got more into paranormal work due to the mediumship work that I do, and I saw these things happening not only when people were sleeping, but also during the day, all kinds of things, which makes me believe that there is always a potential, and we do need to examine, if it's possible, that the battered situations you're seeing are coming from an attachment, a spirit attachment, or a possible possession. Mm-hmm. Now, if it isn't a possession where the spirit or the demon has fully come into the body, it could also be an attack from the outside, which an attachment can cause. So we always want to examine whether it could be something this serious. Now, say you thought maybe something was trying to possess your body, something was trying to get in, and in the process of it trying to get in, it was causing bruises and cuts, or there was an attachment on you that was causing this. Now, if you were to go to a priest and say, I think this is what's going on for me, the very first thing they would do, medical testing, psychological testing, you're going to have to go through the gauntlet to prove that it's none of these other things. And we have some pretty strong opinions on that too, believing that it could be that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if we were to talk about medical reasons, that this might happen, what are some of the medical reasons, most common?
One thing I've commonly read about is there's a certain blood disorder, certain blood conditions, which I am horrible at trying to pronounce any kind of medical name. So I'm just going to say
Google it.
Google it. There's one called ITP, and there's another one similar called TTP. ITP is actually, it's a condition where your body doesn't have enough platelets for the body to like clot and stuff like that from injury. So you could have cuts, bruises, even like blood blisters, things that would form randomly out of nowhere, even if you bumped your arm a few days before. And this also, we could say, varies on the type of person that you are, whether you bruise easy or not.
Okay.
So it's not always a low platelet count situation, but if you're a person who bruises easy and don't remember that you bumped your arm, you're going to end up with a bruise or a small cut that could surface. It may have been a scrape that you didn't even know that you really scraped hard enough to get one, but because of the way that the body heals and stuff, it could still come to surface. Okay. So we have, that situation. Of course, you can always go to the doctor and just say, what are my platelet levels? How low are they? Are they okay? If you get to the point where you look into medical circumstances and there's really nothing there, such as other than TTP and ITP, you also have like hemophiliac. You also have stuff like different other conditions that have to do with the bruising. If you're a cancer patient, chemotherapy, radiation, you're going to bruise easily, and so forth. So all these things to keep in mind, before you would be able to go and get a priest to come out. And yes, you can always call us. Absolutely. If you have to. Okay. I do paranormal work. However, I will say this, a lot of people believe that they have possession issue going on, something haunted in the house or with their person, and they cannot get a priest to come out. It is not that easy. You have to prove that there is no medical backing for this. Now, we also have something called body memories.
that's incredibly interesting. And this theory to me seems to be more the case, kind of an in-between road, okay, from time travel, being on another dimension where you were in battle versus having a full-on possession. Let's talk about this, not from a physical perspective as much as it is mental. Body memories. What is that?
Body memories is basically where, and this could be also chalked up with I would say past life memories too, because other than your brain, your body does remember trauma. So if you have had a high enough traumatic event on a very cellular, scale,
yes.
And again, depending on the type of person you are who doesn't deal with stress or trauma well, it could happen there. But basically what happens is your body remembers these events. It is with your mind, how you're not able to let go
yes.
of situations. It's the same thing for your body. So what can happen is, and I will have to say, I was someone who I used to be acquainted with. This would happen with. Could be just randomly standing there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a cut.
She's bleeding in front of you for no reason.
Just bleeding for no reason at all. And of course, that would freak anybody out, right? Or bruise would just surface up under the skin.
You would not believe it unless you saw it happen.
And you don't even feel this happening. There's also shaking, like body tremors with this. It depends on what you went through as to what your body is choosing to remember. So for your brain to let go of, God forbid, let's just say a rape situation. For your mind to let that go, your body you have to recognize exactly what your body's going through, and you have to allow your body to process this to the point where it feels like it no longer has to express itself. And that could take years.
So what's interesting about that is we're talking about the body being able to relive a trauma, through the mind.
Through the mind.
Through the mind, right? The mind, whether it's past life or it's in this life.
Yes.
But when it's happening, because it reminds me of Reiki, right? When we give someone a Reiki session, we're often going into past lives. We're often going into their younger life or their childhood to help heal. So it's removing a toxin. In a way, you could say that this is a healing process.
Yes. Oh, definitely. There has to be some sort of like I said, like for your mind to heal and process it, your body has to as well, because this could be something that you're not even remembering happened to you. That's why I said with past life memory recall or whatever you want to call it. If you were in, let's say, World War II, and then you come over and you're in this life and you died there, and then you're here and you can't watch war movies, or if you start to, all of a sudden you shake and your arm starts to hurt or something happens.
PTSD.
It's like PTSD for the body.
It really is.
The mind is really what we're looking at here.
Now, and that's the other interesting thing is a lot of people have a mark on their body, a birthmark, constant injuries in one particular area. And they also feel phantom pain, always did, and can identify or have flashbacks or terrible dreams that they were shot in that particular area. And they're wondering why there's so much connected to that. That's it exactly, past life. Not too many people are open, I want to say, to past life experiences or information coming into this life. And I really don't believe that it's because so many people are closed-minded, as much as I feel that people are a little overwhelmed with this life. If I have enough going on and I can barely manage this, I don't really want to observe what else might be there behind me. However, we are huge byproducts, right, of examining what else might be behind us. I will say this, it helps your relationships because you learn who your soul group is, the people you're supposed to be working with. It helps you to heal from these injuries and wounds and traumas.
Absolutely.
Because you're able to sort through them. And we really all have to be pretty aware of how our past lives, as far as work is concerned, the work we're supposed to be doing, how it trickles over from one life into the next.
And that alone, especially with being a light worker, that alone can be traumatic for us too, because there's, sometimes they say you carry over something from one lifetime, could be from 2 lifetimes, could be from 4. So getting down to the nitty gritty there and finding out exactly why you can't handle, like for me, for example, I was a kid, I was like a fish and my mother could never get me out of the tub, never get me out of a pool. But I always had a fear of drowning. Even in the bathtub. I can't even play. There's a game one of my nieces likes to play where it's like cops and robbers kind of a thing. Like, I'm going to arrest you. And if she starts to tie something around my wrist, crazy and I start to panic. I don't freak out in front of around about my 6-year-old niece to be like, oh,
you are like a criminal.
I am a criminal. I'm crying. Call my mama. One phone call. But no, it mentally start to kind of freak out a little bit, and I just breathe through. It's like, are we done now?
So many people they're losing it. They're losing it because of the triggers around them, and they can't really understand why, because they may not have ever happened in this life.
And if you don't know why, luckily for me, I'm able to kind of
let's talk about solutions. Yeah, let's talk about solutions. Okay, so if you guys are having this, someone who's having this, okay, you can always book a paranormal consultation, with us here, but you could also look into what past life trauma or trauma in this life from your childhood, your younger adulthood, whatever, could be causing body memories.
Absolutely. Yeah, you want to get down to, because a lot of it is from what I'm understanding, is with body memories, a lot of it is it happens and you're not remembering. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, you'll wake up and you'll be shaking horribly.
Talk to a therapist.
And you don't know why.
Find out.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is something that helps a lot of people when you can't tap into this. And I would say, certainly when you're waking up battered and bruised, it's time to look.
Oh, sure.
Into maybe seeing a therapist or a hypnosis. Now, when we're talking about past life stuff, you have to know that your higher mind holds all of that information through some simple meditation or contacting your Akashic record guide, who is a guide that's always with you on the other side in spirit, who holds all of your past life information. They can show you. A great class we do here is Meet Your Guide, and you get to meet your Akashic record guide and see a past life. It's a good, simple starter way to tap into what's there that's affecting you now. People can also come in for a past life reading.
Absolutely.
If you're not comfortable with hypnosis, come in and get a regular past life reading. I do not require that you go under for that, but I can give you some background. But you can tap into it on your own. You don't need to go to anybody to tap into it.
I have to say, though, that's one of, I love all the classes you do here. I think I've taken everything. But one of the classes really that I absolutely love is the Meet Your Guides class, because I was having a bit of a situation where I wasn't sure where all this was coming from. And then I come in for Meet Your Guides, in a reading I had previous to Meet Your Guides class. It was a little traumatic for me. I was like, what was all that? So when I sat in on the class, and then you had said, okay, now it's time for the Akashic Records guide, and you can ask whatever. And I'm like, okay, tell me what is directly affecting me now in this life. And literally, I got details of little bits of information that was just given to me in a reading prior to the class.
Oh, synchronicity.
Yeah, it came out, and I'm crying in the class. Like, no,
there are no coincidences, and when it's time, it's really time. And Spirit in the universe will lead you along where you need to go.
And you deal with it accordingly. I mean, I'm still going through the process, because sometimes things can take a while. Nothing really happens overnight.
But you have to invest in it.
But you have to, put the time in and really
no bigger wake-up call.
Absolutely.
And something like this. I mean, this is really, it's really kind of nuts.
Yeah.
And it's really shocking how in the last couple of weeks I've gotten maybe, half a dozen or more pictures of people battered and bruised, and they don't know why. I mean, just even this morning, somebody texted me. So that's what I woke up to this morning. I'm like, where on earth, why is this happening? We are going through an awakening. We're going through some changes. And as we evolve and change, old stuff's got to come out, be cleansed out, right? What are your opinions on, like, the stigmata, people receiving the stigmata? Or, like, I had a boyfriend back in high school who would wake up with telling me he had these terrible nightmares, that we were running from these wolves, and the wolves got him and shredded his back. And I would look at his back, and it would be almost like razor-like in places where he could not have possibly reached, scratches on his back. What's your opinion on some of this stuff?
Whew, I'm glad I'm not one of them.
I know.
So it's, you know what, it really comes down to, I mean, obviously, like, again, looking into what goes on. Like me, for example, I know that I work very important work in my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I will wake up saying the Lord's Prayer. I will wake up with my hands in different positions, like what is going on here, and so forth. And you kind of, I think in a way with like looking back into like with the Akashic Records guide, this is kind of a little bit different. You have to kind of dig deep into your life's work, I would think, in this part. Like as far as like, you know, him getting slices and
That's
stuff.
what I was thinking.
Back.
He was traveling.
Yeah.
Possibly back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but he thought that he was there protecting me, but he would end up kind of getting eaten, you know?
Right. So it's like recalling, you know, things coming back through.
Work.
And it could be, you know, I believe, this is what I believe, and I generally tell people, is that for every dream that you have, and it could be the most off-the-wall thing, there's always like the tiny ounce of truth within every dream that you have. I mean, if you have a dream like I did the other night of like, you know, Freddy Krueger coming out of my basement, yeah, that ain't gonna happen, right? No, but there might be something saying that there's something that I'm not dealing with.
Yep. Dream analysis, you gotta look up the symbology.
Absolutely. So it could be that, you know, work is happening in your sleep and you're not aware of that. And
with the stigmata, you know, what's interesting about something like this is, yes, some people are so spiritually connected, okay, to Jesus Christ, that they would take on his burdens or psychologically be able to experience. Now, we do this with one another.
Yeah.
If you get sick, I feel sick. Yep. If one of my kids, you know, are having a terrible day, I'll feel that emotionally. Some people are so connected, okay, that this is a transfer. The other thing is, a lot of people don't believe in Jesus Christ. And they'll get the stigmata. So that's sort of a whole other cup of tea and a whole other show. But
really
interesting. All the different avenues we could go with this, right?
We only have an hour.
I know. So let's move on. Okay, let's move on. All right. So let's move on. We're going to talk about interesting things that happen most commonly to nurses or at hospitals, at old folks' homes, in different locations where there's a heightened amount of paranormal activity due to illness, death, things like this. So one of the callers had sent in a question saying that, you know, why do you think this happens? This is interesting. They're a nurse at a children's facility where they have 1,500 plus patients.
My goodness.
There are two young babies, both named Luna Soda, they were born within 1 week of each other in completely separate parts of the state, but now reside in the same city. The parents do not know each other. There is no connection to the families whatsoever. These babies, both Luna Sodas, with almost the same birthday, will come in at the same time with the same illness. All the time, until all the nurses in the facility have noticed this happening.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so this is just sort of interesting. One of the other things is twins.
That's what I was going to say. In this situation, it sounds like they may have been twins in a previous life or something. Yes. You know, to where they're spiritually, you know, physically like connected that way. I know sets of twins who deal with that. They live in two separate parts of the country. Yeah. You know, and one is sick and everything. The other one's perfectly fine, but knows that there's something else going on over here. Yeah.
And if we're talking about a past life connection where they may have been twins in a previous life, they could be born not related at all, but will still find each other, will still end up in the same residential, you know, location, still suffering each other's illnesses. So again, you cannot rule out your soul group. You cannot, just absolutely amazing. And it's very common to be born with the same name.
That's one heck of a cord cutting that needs to happen.
Yeah, really, I don't know. I don't think they want to. How cute is that?
Wow.
The same identical name. And a lot of people that are reborn who have a lot of past life work to finish, they'll be born with the same name too. So you could have been born 300 years ago. You'll have the same identical name as what's on your gravestone that's still around. So that's also very common.
Luckily for me, I like my name. I'm good.
Yeah, mine switched up a little bit. I was a Sophia, but now I'm an Ivy, so that's always interesting. The other Sophias. So twins. Okay, this is something else. Nurse had sent in a question. She said, "Why is it that she's a nurse. She has to give a shot to the babies. right? Why is it that with a set of twins, there will be one twin in another room getting a shot, not crying while it gets the shot at all, but the other one will start screaming?
Right.
Okay, again, energetic bonds.
Yep. They literally are feeling each other's pain and everything else.
And that goes on through life, mental, emotional,
absolutely,
everything, okay? They can even break the same limbs at the same time accidentally.
And they don't even have to be identical twins.
No.
It's just twins in general.
Yeah.
Even triplets. Triplets do this too. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to me.
And you can watch some people be born again in this life, not at all biologically related, but they will look identical, act the same, talk the same, have the same mission in life. It's just phenomenal. So dig, okay, solutions for that kind of stuff. Dig into what your past life history might be, with this person. I want to talk about how in the old folks' homes, okay, there was a lot of talk from some of the callers about hotspots. The number one hotspot in an old folks' home is the welcome area when you first come into the door. No, I don't know about you, but I felt that walking in there before. Like you were being greeted, whether there were people sitting there or not.
Yeah, for me, my experiences usually happen in the hallways versus in those welcome rooms. Yeah, oh my gosh, the one elevator. I have to say this really quick. When my dad, he was in rehabilitation, and we went to go visit, and I hate having to see any elderly or anybody put into those things, but I went in there, and I'm in the elevator with my brother, and I'm like, keep turning around, because there was an old lady behind me, not physically there, but me being a medium and empathically feeling energy, I'm just like, do you see her? Do you feel her? And all my brothers like, what is wrong with you?
We're going to leave you here, Tree.
Yeah, elevators, hallways get
just
me.
Just the place for you.
Don't take me downstairs.
Well, that's funny you say that, because that's what I thought. I'm hearing from these nurses, and I'm thinking that's not really where I feel it. Right. I don't really feel it mostly in the welcome area. I feel it like in a back hallway. I feel it in weird spots. The elevator is super potent. But you have to know too, when a body is potentially dying, they're transferring on the elevator very quickly. So absolutely. However, these nurses say it's the welcome area is the most active, where the residents will go and just start talking to the dead, just start mumbling to other people, that they see people that are not there, the nurses, the doctors. They'll see people walking through that aren't there, and then they disappear. The second biggest hot spot in one of these places is the resource room, where they would hang out, play games, eat, things like that. What I found
just make perfect sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
About it.
And that would be higher energy, happier energy. But what I found most interesting was the talk of the third most active place, which is the isolation room. So apparently when people are potentially dying or they have some kind of infection that could make others sick, they put them in an isolation room to see if they're going to survive. Many passed away in that room. Some make it back out. But those are the most active rooms for also the patients to be communicating with the deceased, for the nurses and the staff to see people that are not there. And hard to imagine, isn't it? I mean, that you're potentially passing away or you're sick, and you are put in the most
gotta be one of the most depressing ways.
It makes you wonder. I mean, does that feel good to them? Does that not feel good? Because it's very potentially negative, toxic, stressed out energy.
Absolutely, and I would think too. This kind of just popped in my head, is that I would think that this could cause this person, like if you're supposed to move on, and go on to the light and everything else, and here you are being depressed because everybody's cutting you off. That would make me not want to go through either. You know, I would want to sit around well, woe is me.
Yeah,
you
really.
know, I wouldn't feeling all depressed.
There's not a sage in the world. I mean, I can't tell people enough. You must cleanse the energy. Chimes, clapping, cleansing, singing, classical music. Elevate the energy. And this goes for people who have someone in the home who is also, you're trying to help your loved ones to be comfortable in the house. Elevate that energy, because otherwise you're just collecting polluted, toxic vibes.
They're already upset and depressed enough that they're ill and they may not make it, and God only knows what goes through their minds. Got to make them happy. Or try to.
Yeah, and I just want to say this, and then I know we have a caller. Is that what's going on? So, on another note, this is interesting. Now, we talk about this at the Academy all the time. People with schizophrenia, dementia, Alzheimer's, we like to believe that they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, that they're, we don't know we'll never understand where their mind is. Right. Most of what they're doing is communicating with spirits on the other side or, all kinds of different beings. So what these nurses said to me was that at the time when someone was passing away, the elderly person or the sick individual started to communicate with loved ones on the other side, and they were able to validate that those were loved ones with the family. They were talking to them so much they checked, and the family validated that. But people with dementia do it all the time.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I actually remember one time we traveled to Pennsylvania because I have roots down in PA. And so we went down to visit my great aunt who was suffering from dementia and so forth. And she'd know who we are, but then within seconds, she'd start calling my brother by my grandfather's name, whose name was my brother's middle name. And then she would start saying, little Freddie, and this and this. And then she would look over here and have a conversation, and nobody's over there because my mom and everybody are over here. Here I am as a kid, and of course me not being a normal child at the age of 10 being fascinated by this, where my siblings are giggling because she's cuckoo. So my parents are like, go outside. But then she'd click over, look at my mother and go, oh, Patsy,
back and forth.
And
Playing both sides of the fence.
But you knew, especially if you're somebody who's empathic and who speak to spirits and stuff, you knew there was other foot traffic in that room.
Oh, no doubt about it. Absolutely.
So you can validate and say they're not nutty, but any other person.
And a lot of it is just conversation. That's all it is. It's not, oh my God, why are they here? They're here to take her. Not necessarily. Spirit's hanging out just like we're hanging out a good deal of the time. So it's just fascinating to watch. Yeah. We have a question coming in.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for taking my call, and I really just had a wow moment that something you ladies just touched upon.
Okay.
I have to convey my father. I just want to confirm my father had Alzheimer's before he passed. And my friend came to visit him in the hospital once with me, and he looked at her and said, "You're one of 12."
Wow.
And my father had no idea, but she really was one of 12 children. Like, my father hadn't met her before. Yeah, so I just had to confirm, that was totally validating. Yeah.
Very, like a real psychic moment, and it makes you wonder whether he was channeling somebody else, trying to communicate with her, or if he was just getting incredibly, incredibly intuitive, that he would spontaneously know things like that. It's so incredible.
I really think because her father had passed and they were really close, I really think he was, speaking, confirming, hey, your dad is here too, and he wants me to tell you, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And it really is a magical time. People tend to look at things like Alzheimer's and dementia as being heavy and negative and tragic and, oh, how lost, these people can be. But we really need to celebrate the other aspects of it that we're overlooking. They're open to trance. They're channeling, they're talking with the other side, and it's really phenomenal. And a lot of the time, they're okay with the situation that they're in. To them, it's not as tragic as it looks to us because we're not fully understanding it. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, that's a great testimony. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I really, I do think about that a lot because prior to getting sick, my father, I feel, was like a very enlightened individual. And I wonder, and I kind of put that together with, how, metaphysically people will say, oh, you have asthma because it's mother's love, so I tried to, do that with, Alzheimer's. So, oh, did he have, that because it was, you can forget because, you know, he kind of detached in his own way from the 3D, you know, so maybe.
Yes. That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So, you know, it's something that can teach so many of us so much more. And I think if everyone starts looking at it from another perspective, there's a little bit more digging that needs to be done. It can really start to speak to us individually instead of just blanketing this, you know, as something negative. And I always say, you know, God, the universe, spirit likes to use other people to get healing messages and lessons across to us. So to dismiss these people is tragic. Mm-hmm. We should not be. That's amazing. And what was your name, ma'am?
Oh, Kat.
Okay, thanks for calling, Kat. Keep listening. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you both. God bless you and happy holidays.
God bless you.
God bless
you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, very. I mean, it definitely goes along with, you know, what we're saying as far as, you know, people who have these circumstances that are going on. So it doesn't happen only when you're about to pass or 3 days before you pass.
We should probably clarify that.
Yeah.
I know I pulled it, but that's not what I meant. Okay,
Right.
So exactly. Because people will be like, oh my God, they're going to die.
No.
Not necessarily.
No.
Okay, people with the schizophrenia, the dementia, the Alzheimer's, they could live a good long time.
Very long time, yeah.
But it could resemble the same identical thing that A, mediums are doing, and then, you know, B, what you're seeing people do as they pass away, that whole process. It's all the same thing. I call it playing both sides of the fence. They have 1 foot in this world and they have 1 foot in the spirit world.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I think it kind of also goes along with when people ask questions as far as, you know, why are children talking to things or seeing things that are there that we can't see. And then we have mediums that are doing that thing. And then we have the elderly, whether it's a situation like this or even before they're going to pass. Well, it's basically because, and the way I look at it is that when you relax your mind and open it up enough to get to that level, they are at such a level at that point to where they may be medicated, they may not be medicated, but their mind is so relaxed that they can allow for things to come in.
It's evolution. And truly, it's funny that we let them get away with it. But when we're younger, they want to lock us up and put us in a straitjacket. I mean, we seriously have to assess, you know, what we're doing to ourselves in society. Get it, you know, get real here. Okay. So we are going to move on to, I believe, another caller here, and then question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Question from Linda. Please, I have to know, why do I hear someone call my name when I am in bed, trying to fall asleep but still awake? And they always sound very near, not far away. And sometimes I recognize the voice and sometimes not.
Okay. I will say this, and then, Tree, I'll toss it over to you.
Sure.
What I see most commonly happening is that the veil is being lifted as you're dozing off and as you're waking up. So you could say that the veil that is between the worlds, the invisible world and, you know, this more concrete world, so we think, that gets lifted and we're opening up, like we were just talking about. You're opening up, you're sort of evolving, you're having a little bit of an awakening as you relax. So what happens is you automatically start to see, hear, taste, maybe smell, experience things that are going on that were already there around you, but now you're in tune to it.
Yeah.
So you could hear all the people that were there wanting to talk to you or were in the middle of a conversation. I always say this too. When our ears ring, people think they have tinnitus all the time. When our ears ring, we start to receive messages from the other side. And when you're dozing off, if you were having a lot of that day, you would automatically, as you're dozing off, start to literally hear with your ears and see the person who's been trying to talk to you. It's the first thing you're going to go into. What other experiences do you have with this?
This actually happens to me quite often. And depending upon what is going on, depends on who it is and so forth. So because I've always gotten to that point where I am drifting, like I know I'm falling asleep, I will hear my name. Sometimes it's my own voice. Sometimes it's a voice of a loved one.
Could be your higher mind.
Could be my higher mind. I've heard my father's voice before. I have heard my grandmother's. Now, my grandmother passed when I was 11. So for me to be the age I am now, I don't really remember what her voice sounded like. I have memory, but I don't quite remember. So what I had done was it felt like my grandmother. So I would say, Grandma, if that's you and I'm falling asleep, you can use my voice if it's too difficult for you, because it takes a lot of energy. And I will say, put it with a memory, put it with a feeling, something I remember, and so forth. So sometimes I will hear part of her voice, sometimes my uncle, I will hear his voice, then I get a memory. There are other times where this is, like you were saying, a spirit within the area that's trying to get your attention, like the veil has lifted. I mean, even when we're hearing that, the veil is lifted at that point.
Right.
But it could be a spirit. At that point, you can say, okay, I'm aware that you're there. Is there something you want to tell me? You know, if it's freaking you out,
it can be startling.
Please don't do it.
My biggest experience with this is that it's my guides. And so, Linda, I'm going to say this. From what I'm getting intuitively, okay, off of your question, and thank you for sending in your question. It's a great one, a very common one. What I'm feeling is that it is your guides.
That's and
sometimes when there's work that needs to be done, or there's something coming up, and they're trying to give you information about that incoming situation, my guides, who are always very close, right behind my ear, right off to the front of my face, something like that. As I'm dozing off, they will be in my face, or I will hear them literally right behind me in my ear. And they tend to be a little overwhelming. While guides are very helpful, they can be startling.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing too. Is I've noticed that when I hear my name in my own voice and then I go to sleep, I'm generally working that night. But also, if my right ear is covered, like in the pillow, I will hear it. If my left ear and my right ear is exposed, I generally don't hear it.
I should enjoy.
So that's interesting
too,
because it's like, which ear are they talking into? And usually it's the right side for me. So, you know,
meaning higher mind, psychic
mind.
Intuition. And that's what the golden rule is. And that's what we teach here too, is left side ear, okay, tends to be spirit communicating with you. The right side tends to be your higher mind, your own psychic intuition, things like that. So watch for the ringing, the pressure in the ears, what side things are happening on. Yeah. Okay, great question. We have another one coming in here. I want to say from Jenny Davids. She says, every night when we go to bed, my cats meow and run through the house. Or they sit in one spot and meow like they're talking to someone. And yes, it is different from the way that they play. I will say that I had 2 cats who sat for 2 years. I kid you not. I had relocated to Buffalo. I did not know the area. I got a house in a bad neighborhood, not knowing exactly what I was doing. And I had a protector guide who sat directly behind me, stood directly behind me in my couch while I sat on the couch every night. And I would be staring at the TV trying to relax, and the cats would sit side by side and stare at the guy behind me for 2 years, protecting the house, not a comfortable situation. So the animals, above all, will see. You've had this?
Oh, yeah. Cats are kind of my familiar. I've always had one growing up, even though when I was a kid I was allergic, but I insisted on having a cat. So I always had a cat. So I have had different experiences with this. And because you can tell when they're playing, you can tell when they're chasing something, you can tell when there's something there. And you want to look at the cat itself and even sometimes look at, are their eyes dilated, not dilated?
Good point.
Also, you want to look at what their reactions are. Are they just sitting and staring lovingly? Are they just like looking at something like or are they angry? Are they growling, hissing, any of that going on? I had 2 cats now. I just have the one. And they would play with each other. It's like off to the races after midnight. They're sleeping. Let's go have fun. And when the one cat passed away, my other cat got very just kind of lazy. Once in a while, she's off to the races.
That's what I was going to say. You can watch the way the animals are communicating with
their
them.
behaviors.
It's intelligent energy. Is it intelligent energy that's communicating with them, a spirit that's trying to play and interact with them, or are they just watching something?
Something like with residual energy, like in the paranormal field, it knows to be residual or intelligent. So if there is a residual energy that comes around roughly around the same time, or so forth, what's happening there.
Say there was a tragedy. Say somebody was murdered, okay, in the house, and that happened at 1 o'clock in the morning. Every night at 1 o'clock in the morning, if cats are watching the same show over and over and over again, or you hear residual.
Yeah, absolutely. And then intelligent. What are the cat's reactions? What exactly is happening there? There are times where my guide will literally go and get my cat and send my cat out. If I have people over, depending on conversation, and she'll get in my face or something.
They're part of the network.
Absolutely. So, and that's the other thing people say this about cats, because there's so much with folklore with cats and everything. But one thing they say, and if anybody who has ever watched the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser,
not yet.
Love those movies. Okay. Well, in the one scene, he grabs a cat because the cat hisses at this mummy as he's still partly not formed.
Yeah.
And in some lore, they say that cats are the guardians of the underworld.
Right.
They guard the gates. So I always tell people who have a lot of negativity, if you have a cat, go get one.
Yeah, seriously. Every witch needs a cat.
Every witch needs a cat. Every person
should have a cat. Well, and the funny thing is, they're going to find you. Cat's going to find you regardless. We think of ourselves as being so amazing for taking an astray, and really, the stray that found us is there for us. They come to bring us the help that we need.
But we have to say, for all of the dog and hamster and turtle loving communities, it's the same thing. Animals are what I refer to, just like children, as innocence. Yep. There is a certain level where their brain is functioning before they get to that, dare I want to say, but tainted or programmed. Right. So they see things, they hear things, they can feel energy, they know somebody's good intentions or not. So really any animal at all, but cats have a specific level
they bring in healing. I always say the animals work with the angels, and the angels and the animals work with the empathic people.
And they could be playing with angels.
That's right. They could be. So they are often, if they're sitting on a certain part of your body, they're often bringing in healing to that part of your body, different things like that. So they know exactly what's going on.
I love the animal questions I get to.
I know. They're so fun. And they all see. So, gauge it by your animals. Pay attention to your animals. Communicate with your animals more telepathically, okay? And they will give you the answers on what's going on. We just have to listen to them, which we don't do in our society enough. Another interesting question coming in here from an Amanda. What about random objects disappearing? This might sound strange, but we always have missing silverware, spoons, and forks in particular, to the point where we have to buy more a couple times a year. I know my dog runs off with an occasional spatula, but we know that this cannot possibly be him. All right, what is going on with that? My big theory is always that spirit will hide something from you and then return it when you are on the right track, or you've had the right thought, or you're making the right decision, and it's like a heads up. But we see a million different things going on with this. Yes,
in my level of expertise, not even expertise, but just actually, I should say, with dealing with things experience, is there are certain beings, entities, different things out there that love shiny things, like crows and ravens love to take like a bolt or a screw or a shiny foil piece of paper. It's the same thing. They're attracted to shiny things. It doesn't mean that they're negative. It doesn't mean that they don't want you to eat today or anything like that. They just want that spoon. So in one case, I knew somebody who was getting ready to move out of their home. They bought a new home. They were getting ready to move. And for the 15 years they lived there, every so often, one of those like grilling forks or metal spatulas would disappear, and they would have to buy one. Well, they're getting ready to move, and down in their basement, there's a like cubby area, almost like a storm area that they never put anything in or whatever. So they're getting ready, and they're like, why am I checking in here? Here there is a pile of about 15 forks and spatulas just piled up under, and they only saw it because of one was sticking out of the board. You lift the board, and there it is. There's no raccoons in the house.
And
This
is what we would call living in community.
Yes.
With the spirits in your house.
Yes.
So gift them a spoon. Gift them a fork every now and again, Amanda.
Go to the Dollar Tree.
Get them a separate set. Tell them not to touch a good set.
Say, put it in a pile, put it in a certain location and say, okay, you like shiny things. I don't know who you are or whatever, so you like shiny things. You can take from this pile. Please leave the good stuff alone and actually experiment. Actually see if they start to take, if they don't, they might like the pattern of what's on yours. Like I said, doesn't necessarily mean they're negative.
You can put powder on the floor too. This would be interesting.
Little footprint.
You put down some powder, and see a lot of kids doing this with, tracking Santa and the elves and things right now. This is a cute time of year to do this.
Flour all over.
Put out, now you have to go get your new silverware. You put out some for the spirit in the house, okay, who likes your shiny stuff. Put some powder down on the floor so you can catch some footprints.
Sure.
Leading up to
baby powder, so you got to attract ants or anything. But like different things. Also, like I said, like you were saying before, you do have your guides, loved ones who like to do certain things to get your attention. Communication. Yeah. So, and that could chalk up with the hair pulling as well. Sometimes it's not always negative. Sometimes if it's a hard pull, like hair's coming out of your head, okay, that's right. More negative. But if you got little tug, like, pay attention, really just depends. So really, if you're not afraid to set up a camera, maybe some baby powder, get a separate pile of spoons, have some with it and see exactly.
Living in community, with, we talk about this at the Academy all the time. I mean, that is the number one rule of dealing with the paranormal. We want you to live in harmony and community with the spirits on the other side. If that was their house, if they just happen to be around, they've been around a long time, they like you, they like your stuff, you can set up rules, and it's simple. Just talk to them. Sometimes you have to repeat it a couple times, but that will typically work. If you do feel, let's move on to this one because we have some questions about hair pulling. Yeah. If you do feel like there's someone getting in your face when the veil is lifted at night, if you hear your name being called, somebody pulled your hair, I mean, not knock you down to the ground and beat you, but like it's just a tug on the hair that is undeniable. Some people will feel a poking. Yeah. Okay, that's common. This could very well be your guides. Talk to them. People are like, well, what do I do now? Well, we need to be doing this all the time. Absolutely. When you ask your guides, what is the message? Okay, you do not have to get into a deep state of meditation. Sit with a notepad and a pen. Take 5 minutes of your time, turn off your phone, close your eyes, and just listen. Any symbols that you see in your head, any feelings that you have, any thoughts that pop into your head, that is the message, okay? And this is how you begin to learn the language. Write it down. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's not always negative. You know what I mean? It's not always. It really varies. Like I said, if it's a violent tug on your hair,
that is a problem.
That's a problem. If you're first getting your hair yanked, you're getting tripped, you're getting scrapes, bruises, things are breaking in your house, you're seeing fires happen, water, different things happening. That's more of there's something going on.
There's something going on. You could be creating a poltergeist. Yeah. Okay. So when there's a lot of moving objects and things like this, and the fires and the problems. It could be you and someone else in the house. Typically, it is a teenage girl or multiple teenage girls, women going through menopause, or heaven forbid, both at the same time, hence the movie The Poltergeist, okay? These can create poltergeists, which will turn into very negative, potentially dangerous situations, even though sometimes it seems playful. So you're going to have to gauge. But two toxic people, or two people, even if they're lovely people, but who have a lot of toxic energy between the two of them, you better believe you can create a poltergeist. You got to be careful with this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And there can always be something left over from previous people who lived there and so forth. I mean, not to go into a big story, but like my mother had one growing up in her home. And basically, she found out years later that with poltergeist, the mischievous spirits, you hear the scratching in the walls, you might think it's rats and things breaking, things moving. She had a stack of comic books, set fire in July, it's out of nowhere. Basically, debunk it the best you can. Set up a camera, look at, back then they didn't have those kind of cameras, but now you can. Also, cleanse. You can find out what it wants. My mother was told years later, one of the reasons why they're so mischievous is they're hungry. They can't eat. Put out a glass of milk and half a sandwich. That supposed to calm them down. So, I mean, there's many different ways.
And there's
we can
a
go
whole,
about this.
we're going to need to do a paranormal show on, like,
yes.
some of the, we do a class here called Hauntings, Clearings, and Attachments. And granted, it's a very 101 basic. I had people in here who were like, are we going to do exorcisms tonight? And I was like, aw, have you ever seen a stick of sage? She was like, no. I was like, then no.
Here's one.
Let's start with this.
Yes.
Okay, but we do have a question here from Nicole Marie, who's like, I've had hair pulling before. I also had an empty water bottle hit me in the back of the leg while I was doing dishes. It was on the kitchen counter on the other side of the room. I would say this, and what I'm getting psychically from that question is that possibly there is some kind of negative energy buildup between her and a romantic partner in the house. Now, whether that's from her and him, or that's from the previous owners, remember, it builds and it builds and it builds.
Manifests. Yeah.
I'm basically feeling a manifestation of negativity.
That's exactly where I was going.
That's where you draw the line.
Your residual energies that are there before, it could not necessarily be a haunting, but just energies build up in the home. So even if your home is not negative or haunted, it's good to smudge it and clear it out anyway, because energy can manifest into something else, or depending upon how much negative builds up, it can invite something else.
That's what I'm talking about. It certainly will. Well, negative attracts negative, and if there's negative energy build up, even from an argument, arguments are the number one reason for negative energy attraction. It will start to attract spirits that are not on the up and up. So you need to be careful.
Clear, cleanse, and see what happens after that. If you get kicked back and there's other things going on, well, then there's a further situation that needs to be looked at.
Clocks having the wrong time could be a lot of things, but yes, time pausing potentially. I want to say empathic ability. When you have a lot of empaths living in the same house, you'll see lights going on and off without anybody touching a switch, phones charging and draining, clocks being disorderly.
Tarot class in here was
tarot class in here. You see all the empaths in here. It's like every battery died. Every connection to the internet was frazzled. Every Skype shut down. iPads, telephones. I mean, we had nothing.
Electricity.
Sitting in the dark, telepathically communicating is what we're looking at.
Our little butts off.
This is what happens. So be aware of who's in your house. Okay, you can also see cascading lights, beautiful orbs and pictures and photographs. Those would be angels. They would also be loved ones from the other side, and spirits trying to communicate. Some people have a following of orbs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see them typically in photographs. Cascading lights are beautiful, typically out of the corner of your eye, and I do believe that's primarily angel.
I would say flash of light too. I had that experience too. Sitting right here in the academy, trying to do a Skype with somebody for tarot. We were practicing on each other, and the moment I put the phone in front of my face, there's this giant flash of light, and it was almost blinding. Yeah, blinding, and I'm like, did anybody else see this?
It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, absolutely. That was the same night here. Yeah, we all saw different lights because I was in my office in the back. I saw lights too. A lot of angel activity, but it was a group of tarot readers getting together who are all psychic mediums, who are all graduates of level 1 and 2 psychic mediumship, getting together, and that's what we attract. Yes. Incredible things. Next week's show, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, we are talking about my 3-year-old sees dead people. We're going to talk about child development in intuitive ability. Okay, so we welcome you. If you want to book a reading, you can do that with me at ivyriverapsychicmedium.com or find me at Ivy Rivera. Tree, where can they find you again?
On Facebook, Theresa Tree, Matuszak Psychic Medium. And I do want to also go ahead and say that the show, instead of the following Sunday because of Christmas, we are doing it next week, the 18th.
Yes, next week. And then we'll take a break and then we'll be back. So find us at Academy Talk Radio. Ask a Medium show on Facebook also, and we welcome you to take classes here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy, 17 Lincoln Road in Amherst, New York, and you could look up details on upcoming classes at ivyleaguepsychicacademy.com. Take care of each other, and happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays. See you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing, like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
If If your family loves the great outdoors every season, there's only one place to go for last-minute gifts this season. Cabela's Christmas Sale. Hurry in for great deals on their favorite outdoor brands, like 25% off PMC 223 Bronze Line rifle ammo, $100 off Kimber CSE pistols, and $100 off a Remington 700 ADL commemorative bolt-action rifle. Plus, give the gift good on any item. Cabela's gift cards. Make Cabela's your first stop for last-minute gifts. Shop in-store and online at Cabela's.com.